I'm showing you exactly how I kept a funded account alive for over a year. If you're able to pass evals but you blow up your funded account, it's not your strategy. In fact, that account was blown 2 days before, it's just that you never noticed. Today, I'm building you the systems that makes payouts inevitable. And execution is not a discipline problem. In fact, it's a systems problem. And a system is simple. It's a set of rules and the interaction between those rules that allow for repeated behavior without you even having to think about it. Once you're actually profitable, the profits cannot help but come into your account, whether you want them to or not. And that's what makes them inevitable. For example, if you lift weights, you don't build muscle by putting more weight when you have bad form. In fact, that's just how you're going to get injured even quicker. When you have the idea that in order to become profitable, you just need more money, it means that you haven't actually addressed the system first. A losing system just loses more money faster with more capital. But of course, knowing this doesn't fix the leak right away. I'll show you exactly what mine looked like days before it ever cost me the payout. All of this sounds like common knowledge and super simple, but for me, it took me years to actually learn this. So in my case, I went on a 15 trade losing streak, and then I had to take 2 months because I was continuously doubting my strategy. And after that, I backtested, came back in December 2024, and from there I had the conviction to actually keep my account for over a year straight. And that backtesting told me that it wasn't that my strategy was broken. It taught me that I was trading blind without a system. So I broke down consistent profitability into 3 different parts so that I never have to feel blind again. You have your edge, your risk, and your psychology. But I'm going to break it down into something that I'm sure none of you guys have ever seen. So first of all, we have your edge, which is the amount of water that is flowing into a bucket. And then your risk management is the size of your bucket, also known as how much water can you hold. The third is your psychology and your execution. So that is how much of the water that's accumulating in the bucket is now leaving because of execution leaks. And this is important to understand because for us as traders, we want to accumulate as much water as we can in the bucket. We want to collect payouts. So in order for you to diagnose why you keep blowing up your actual funded account, you need to know whether it is the flow or your technical edge, whether it's your risk management, so how much money can you keep, and whether it is your psychology. Do you actually have leaks in your execution? So from here, we're basically tracking the flow of water, how big the bucket is, and how much water is leaking. And in order to do that, you need to be tracking which of these 3 pillars are actually broken. And that's what's going to tell you what to fix next. And remember what I said at the start of the video, where your account is already broken or it's already been blown 2 days before it has happened. Tracking these statistics to find out the leak is exactly how you're going to find it before it shows up. So for a lot of you, let's address the biggest problem. More often than not, it's going to be your execution. One key point that I want you to remember is that blowups don't happen immediately. It usually takes place the days prior. So maybe one of the trades that you took 2 days ago had slightly bad execution. You might have entered a little bit earlier than you said that you were going to. And then, as a result, you end up with a loss. And that loss in your head, it feels like something that you weren't supposed to take in the beginning. So of course, we move on to the next day. You want to make back what you lost. So you enter with slightly more size, or you end up taking 2 trades that you weren't supposed to instead of 1. So that 1 trade loss ends up turning into 5 trades. But then that 6th trade, you just had more size because you wanted to make back all the previous 5 losses. So of course, you might be wondering, what are we supposed to do? We need to track the data. So here are some of the key data metrics to actually track so that you can diagnose where the leak is in your bucket. First things first, everything above this green line is what you work on before you actually go into the charts. So for me, measure how much sleep you're getting the day before. This is probably one of the highest returns on investment. So for me, I kind of have a smartwatch over here just so I can track how much sleep am I getting, because I realize that every time I sleep under 6 hours, well, that says over, but under 6 hours, I end up blowing my account. Like for some reason, it just happens every single time. The second thing that you have to track, even before you take a trade, is the expectancy of your actual setup. So is it at least positive, over 0 or greater than 0? And now for everything below this green line, we are going to be rating our trades something simple like out of 5. So let's say, for example, on Monday, you took a trade and you executed not well, as in you might have entered the trade really early. Instead of waiting for the candle to close, you just thought you're going to miss out on the trade, so you entered early. In that case, we can rate our execution for that specific trade a 2 out of 5. And then let's say on Tuesday, we take another trade, but that execution was even worse. So rather than waiting for the candle to close, you just pulled the trigger like 5 minutes before it actually closed. And then on Wednesday, that is when you straight up did not risk however much you were supposed to risk. So all of these, so you got your execution errors, mental state, size, and risk, all of those can be rated out of 5. So for that trade that you took on Monday, what happens, or more often than not, one of those metrics are still going to be good. It could be your size or your risk, or mentally you can be doing well. It's just that your execution was slightly off. So for that single trade on Monday, you had a 2 out of 5 execution, you had a 5 out of 5 mental state, as in you were still mentally clear, but you had a 3 out of 5 for your size. Maybe you risk an extra $50 than you're supposed to. And so of course, the actual metrics that you use is going to be specific to you. I work with a few of my clients and I tell them which exact metrics that they should be tracking. However, the concept is the same. You want to have actual ratings for each trade so that throughout the course of the week, you can actually see what your performance is for that specific metric. So in this case, let's say this top row is your execution errors. You'd see that over time, it doesn't just start off at 0. It starts off as 2, and then it goes down to 1. And so at the end of the week, if you took a total of 3 trades, 1 on Monday, 1 Tuesday, 1 Thursday, this total is 3 out of 15. So that's how you know that your execution is not good. Because if it was, this would be closer to like 13 or 15 out of 15. And as a quick tangent, when I kept blowing my funded accounts, I realized that my technical edge was fine. Every single trade I took met my strategy. However, the leak in the system is more often than not my size. So sometimes I might risk exactly what I was supposed to. I entered with the right amount of contracts. Let's say it was 2 on ES, but then it would snowball. So I might have lost more than I was supposed to on that trade because I risked more. And then what do I do the next day? Well, for that one single trade, I might end up risking double that I was supposed to. So that is a 1 out of 5. So for me, I was able to calculate all of these totals for all of the trades that I took throughout the week. And the constant denominator is I guess it's execution, but I just risked more than I was supposed to. So there was either something wrong with my risk management or there was something wrong with my psychology. One of those two. But basically, tracking the metrics allows you to actually diagnose what you need to work on. And this is exactly the key that you need to stop blowing your funded accounts. So the next time you might try this, keep track of all your trades and rate them. And when you blow up, you'll be able to see the pattern. And when you see the pattern, that's what keeps you from actually repeating the same mistakes. Trust me, it's a lot better than having a blown up account and just wondering what the fuck is going on. Like, why do you keep having to repeat the same pattern? However, if I'm going to be honest with you, it's not tracking the data that's the hard part. It's actually knowing what to fix. And then most importantly, having the discipline to work on that one single thing that will actually move the lever when it comes to improving as a trader. And this is very similar to actually solving jigsaw puzzles. If you're ever working on a section, you might find pieces that belong in another section and then you get overwhelmed because you want to start another section. But the thing is, you still need to finish the first one that you actually were starting on. So that's the same thing for this one. You need the actual discipline to brainstorm and then focus on the one thing that you need to in order to have better metrics. So that's the thing that primarily changed for me, but I needed to know if it actually works with someone else, so I tried it with one of my clients. For one of them, they were stuck in this cycle of not knowing what exactly they're doing wrong. They had the blown up account or they lost money in their personal account, and all of that just seemed like the output. But they didn't know what was going on with the system and what to actually address. So rather than pinpointing the blown account to something as simple as you risked more than you were supposed to, of course that happened. That's why he blew the account. So we instead traced it back a few days and looked at his actual data. So way before he took the trades that he wasn't supposed to, we actually tracked his mental state. So for each one of these trades, we gave it a rating. Maybe this one was a 4 out of 5. And then on trade number 2, he rated his mental at a 2 out of 5. And so all of these other statistics, he might have taken the right trade. He might have executed perfectly. He might have risked as much as he was supposed to. All of those were perfect. But what was the actual leak? It was his mental state. So then we started implementing some form of journaling system so that he is aware of his thoughts and knows the exact times that he should and shouldn't be trading. And profitable traders know that it's not just how much money are you making, it's also how much money are you keeping. So going back to this example, if you have the most profitable strategy in the world, let's say you have an expectancy of 2R every single time you take a trade, which is absolutely insane, but you just can't execute well, and your overall leak is also 2R, guess what? You're break even. Or worse yet, it's not 2R, it might be closer to like 3R. You're draining money quicker than you're actually putting in money. Obviously, this was all personalized advice, and it's something that we had to work on together in order to diagnose the right thing. So again, going back to the 3 pillars, Edge tells you if you have something actually worth trading. Is there actual money flowing into the bucket? And how good your risk management strategy is basically determines how much of the money you actually get to keep. So if your risk management is really bad, then this bucket is going to be really small. But instead, if it's really good, then guess what? This bucket is going to be absolutely massive. Why? Because this bucket can compound into a larger bucket. That's how trading and mathematics works. And finally, we have your psychology. This is the thing that most people have difficulty executing. It's kind of what keeps them from actually being inconsistent because they just can't keep what they already have. So that is why we track your trades and track your metrics. So that is pretty much the whole system where I took the overall flow and I broke it down into 3 different things so that you could actually pinpoint what it is you need to work on. So for me personally, I started trading prop firms in 2023. So I was able to experience that same cycle of passing an account, getting close to a payout, and then blowing the whole thing and rinsing and repeating that same cycle. However, when I started tracking the metrics, that's how I found out what I needed to work on. And from there, in 2024, I was able to keep that account all the way up until 2025 and actually have more of like a breakthrough moment. Now, of course, this does not happen overnight. When you build the right systems, you're only putting in place the mechanism that results in your future results. So it still actually takes time of revisions and changes and improvements before you're actually able to see the effects of your current inputs. So as an action step, pick one of these 3 things first. Do you know if your edge is profitable? If not, get your ass on the back testing sheet, start tracking your statistics because that is the most important metric to actually track. Second of all, calculate your risk. And then third, your psychology, whichever one you think is your bottleneck. And if you trade prop firms and you recently came from a blown account or you went on a massive losing streak, I'd like you to walk me through the last time that you revenge traded or you entered a setup too early. I'll be able to help you break down what went wrong so that the next funded account that you pass is the one that you keep. And if we're a good fit, I can tell you about my 12-week program that I'm running with my first founding clients. And whether you're interested or not, the feedback is yours to walk away with. So if you're tired of pouring your time and money into prop firm accounts and not having anything to show for it, then click the link in the description and let's talk.